What if the life you were running from was the one thing you needed to lose to find out who you truly were? A woman fell from the sky, a ghost from a world of glass and steel, and landed in the quiet, forgotten corner of the world I called home. She had no memory, no name, no past. All she had was a wound on her head and a fear in her eyes that I understood all too well. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to save me. And I was about to help her remember a life she would do anything to forget. The rain came down in sheets, a relentless, roaring curtain that turned the Appalachian mountain roads into slick ribbons of mud. "Daddy, it's loud," my little girl, Lily, said from the passenger seat, her small voice barely a whisper above the storm's fury. "I know, sweet pea," I answered, my knuckles white on the steering wheel of my old pickup. "We're almost home." Home was Havenwood, a town tucked so deep into the mountains it felt like time had forgotten us. For me, Liam, a 35-year-old woodworker trying to keep my grandfather's shop afloat, it was the only world I knew. Ever since I lost my wife, Sarah, 3 years ago, my world had become very small. It was just me, Lily, and the scent of sawdust and varnish that clung to my clothes. It wasn't an easy life, but it was ours. As we rounded a steep bend, a flash of orange lit up the forest, so bright it fought back the darkness. It wasn't lightning. It was fire. "What was that?" Lily asked, pressing her face against the window. I pulled the truck over, my heart hammering against my ribs. My first instinct was to get my daughter home, where it was warm and safe. But Sarah always said I had a heart too big for my own good. "Stay in the truck, Lily," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "Lock the doors. Don't move for anything. Understand?" She nodded, her eyes wide. I grabbed a heavy flashlight from under the seat and plunged into the soaking woods, the rain cold against my skin. The hike up the hill was treacherous. Mud sucked at my boots, and thorny branches tore at my jacket. Then I saw it. The mangled, twisted wreckage of a small private jet was scattered across the clearing, steam hissing from the hot metal as the rain tried to extinguish the last of the flames. It was one of those sleek, expensive planes you only see in movies, now just a tomb of smoking ruin. "My God," I whispered, sweeping the flashlight beam across the debris. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice swallowed by the storm. I searched desperately for survivors, but there was only silence. And then my light fell upon her. A woman trapped beneath a piece of the fuselage. She was wearing a pilot's uniform, soaked through and stained with blood. For a moment I thought she was gone. But then I saw the faint rise and fall of her chest. She was breathing. Without a second thought, I put all my strength into moving the heavy metal, adrenaline surging through me. I managed to pull her free. She was young, maybe my age, with hands that were soft, uncalloused. A delicate, expensive-looking watch was still clasped on her wrist, a watch that probably cost more than I made in a year. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" I asked, gently shaking her shoulder. There was no response. I carefully scooped her into my arms and carried her back down the hill to the truck, where Lily was waiting, her face a pale circle in the dim light. "Is she dead, Daddy?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "No, sweet pea. But she's hurt bad. We have to get her help." But the storm had other plans. When I tried to drive back to the main road, I realized it was completely flooded. A river of brown water raged where the asphalt should have been. The phone lines were down, cell service was non-existent. There was no way to reach the hospital tonight. We were trapped. There was only one thing to do. I took her home. In our small, rustic house, I laid the stranger down on the living room sofa, the same sofa where Sarah used to read stories to Lily. My daughter, with a bravery that humbled me, helped me clean the gash on the woman's forehead and bandage it as best we could. She had a nasty blow to the head and several cuts and bruises, but nothing else seemed to be broken. For 2 days, she drifted in a deep, unnerving silence. I stayed home from the workshop, a luxury I couldn't afford, but I felt a profound, unexplainable duty to this woman who had fallen from the sky. Lily sat by her side for hours, talking to her as if she were an old friend, telling her about school, about her favorite cat, about the tree house I was building for her. On the third morning, her eyes fluttered open. They were a startling shade of blue, filled with a deep, bottomless confusion. Where am I?" she asked, her voice a dry, hoarse whisper. "You are in my home," I said softly, kneeling beside the sofa. "You were in a plane crash. I found you in the woods." She slowly raised a hand to her bandaged head, wincing in pain. I don't remember anything," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "I don't know who I am." Lily and I exchanged a worried glance. Her panic was real, her loss absolute. "It's okay," Lily said, taking the woman's trembling hand. "You need a name for now. How about Jane?" The woman looked at my daughter, and for the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. It was a smile that seemed to bring a little bit of light back into the room. "Jane," she repeated softly. "I like that." That night, after I put Lily to bed, I turned on our old television. The national news was leading with a story about a missing heiress, Isabel Beaumont, the sole heir to the vast Beaumont corporate empire in New York City. Her private jet had vanished from radar during a flight. They showed a photo of her. She was polished, poised, her hair and makeup perfect. She looked like she belonged to a different species. And yet there was something in her eyes, a familiar spark that reminded me of the woman sleeping on my couch. I quickly turned the TV off. It was just a coincidence. For now, she was just Jane. A woman who needed our help. And for reasons I didn't understand, she was already bringing a new kind of warmth into our quiet, lonely house. The next few weeks passed in a strange, peaceful rhythm. Jane, as we all called her, settled into our lives with a natural grace that was astonishing. The gaping hole that Sarah's death had left, a space I never thought could be filled, began to feel a little less empty. Jane had a gift with Lily. She'd sit with her at the kitchen table, patiently explaining complex math problems in a way that suddenly made sense. She wasn't just kind, she was brilliant. One afternoon, I was in my workshop, struggling with the blueprints for a custom-built rocking chair. The design was intricate, the joinery complex, and I was stuck. Jane came in, holding 2 mugs of coffee. She watched me for a moment, a thoughtful frown on her face. "What if you tried a different approach with the tenants?" she asked, setting the mugs down. Before I could answer, she picked up a pencil and a spare piece of wood. Her hand moved with an unnerving confidence, sketching a design that was not only breathtakingly beautiful but also structurally superior to my own. I stared at the drawing, then at her. Where did you learn to do that? I asked, completely bewildered. She looked at the sketch as if seeing it for the first time. A flicker of confusion crossed her face. I don't know, she whispered. It just felt right. Another day, she found me hunched over my ledgers, the number a tangled mess of reading. The bank had been sending letters. I was falling behind. She glanced at the pages, and with the sharp, precise language of a high-powered executive, she pointed out 3 major inefficiencies in my cash flow and suggested a restructuring plan that was both simple and genius. How could a woman with no memory know so much about woodworking and corporate finance? Who was she? The question hung in the air between us, unspoken but always present. She was a puzzle, a beautiful, captivating mystery living under my roof. The more I got to know her, the more I felt myself falling for her, and that terrified me. Loving someone meant you could lose them. I had learned that lesson in the cruelest way possible. I couldn't go through that again. But when I saw her laughing with Lily in the yard, her face lit up with genuine joy, I felt a hope I thought had died with Sarah. That hope was a fragile thing. A letter arrived from the bank, its stark, official font a harbinger of doom. It was a final notice. I had 30 days to pay the arrears on my mortgage, or they would foreclose on both the workshop and our home. Everything my grandfather had built, everything I had, was about to be stripped away. I tried to hide it, but Jane saw the despair in my eyes. "What is it, Liam?" she asked that night, after Lily was asleep. "It's nothing, Jane." "It's my problem," I said, unable to meet her gaze. "No," she said, her voice firm. "We are in this together. Your problems are my problems now." The way she said it, so simply, so fiercely, it cracked something open in my chest. We were in this together. But at the same time, her own past was beginning to claw its way back. She started having terrible nightmares. She would wake up screaming, her body drenched in sweat. She described flashes of a cold, sterile boardroom, a wall of glass overlooking a city of skyscrapers. And always there was a man. A handsome man in an expensive suit, his grip like iron on her arm, his face a mask of cold possession. One night, she woke up shouting a name. "Richard!" I rushed to her side, finding her trembling, her eyes wide with terror. "It was him again," she sobbed. "The man in the suit. I think I was engaged to him. And Liam, I think I was running away." I sat on the edge of the sofa and took her hand. "It doesn't matter what you were running from," I told her, my heart aching for her. "What matters is that you are here now. You are safe with us." I wanted to pull her close, to kiss her, to tell her that I would never let anything hurt her. But I held back. She was still a mystery, and I had to think of Lily. "Get some rest," I said softly. "Tomorrow is a new day." As I walked back to my room, her words echoed in my mind. She was running away. But what happens when the world you are running from finally finds you? The answer came 2 weeks later. It arrived in a procession of sleek, black SUVs that crawled into our quiet town like a funeral procession. They looked alien against the backdrop of Havenwood's old-fashioned storefronts. Men in dark suits and sunglasses got out, their city shoes crunching on the gravel of the town square. They started asking questions, showing a photograph to the locals. I watched from the window of my workshop, a cold dread seeping into my bones. I saw Father Michael from the local church talking to them, his expression grim before he reluctantly pointed in the direction of my house. I knew, in that gut-wrenching moment, that they were looking for Jane. Jane, I called out, my voice tight with anxiety. You need to see this. She came to the window and her face went completely, deathly pale. As she stared at the approaching cars, it was like a dam broke in her mind. I could see it in her eyes, a tsunami of memories, overwhelming and violent. She saw the face of her father, a powerful man named Charles Beaumont. She saw corporate offices filled with people whose livelihoods depended on her family's decisions. She saw contracts, mergers, and high-stakes deals. And she saw Richard Sterling, the man from her nightmares, waiting for her at the altar on the day she fled. Oh my God, she whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. I know who I am. Who are you? Lily asked, sensing the sudden shift in the air, leaving her coloring book to join us at the window. Jane turned to us, her eyes swimming with tears that were no longer for a stranger, but for a life she now remembered. My name is Isabel Beaumont, she said, her voice choked with emotion. And my family has been searching the entire country for me. I closed my eyes, the name from the news report crashing down on me. I had known, hadn't I? A part of me had known all along. But I had refused to see it. I wasn't prepared for the sharp, physical pain that lanced through my chest. The black cars pulled up outside. The past had arrived. And it had come to take her away. A sharp, authoritative knock echoed through the small house. Before I could even move, the door swung open. A tall, imposing man with silver hair and a suit that cost more than my truck stepped inside, flanked by two stone-faced bodyguards. I recognized him instantly from the news. Charles Beaumont. Isabel, he cried out, his voice a mixture of relief and command. Thank God you are alive. He rushed forward and pulled her into a stiff, awkward embrace, his eyes scanning her simple clothes with a look of faint disapproval. Father, Isabel whispered, still reeling from the flood of returning memories. We've been searching for a month, he said, his voice thick with emotion, though it sounded more like the emotion of a chairman finding a lost asset than a father finding his daughter. We thought you were gone. I had amnesia, father. Until just now, I didn't remember who I was. It was only then that Charles Beaumont seemed to notice me and Lily, huddled together in the doorway to the kitchen. And you are, he asked, his gaze sweeping over me with cold assessment. I'm Liam. I found her after the crash. And why didn't you call us? We offered a substantial reward. The word reward felt like a slap in the face. She didn't remember anything, I said, my voice low and tight. I was just trying to help her get well. He saved my life, father, Isabel intervened, stepping between us. Liam and Lily, they took care of me. They treated me like family. Her father's gaze fell on Lily, who was hiding behind my legs. His expression softened, but only for a second. I see. Well, we are of course grateful. You will be compensated for your troubles. We don't want your money, I said, more forcefully than I intended. Charles Beaumont raised an eyebrow. Everyone wants money, he stated, as if it were a law of physics. Isabel, we have to go, he said, turning back to her. The company is in crisis. Richard has been managing things, but we need you back. Immediately. The name Richard made Isabel flinch. He's still waiting to marry me. Of course. The wedding was merely postponed. Everyone understands you were simply overwhelmed with stress. I wasn't overwhelmed with stress. Isabel's voice rose, filled with a fire I'd never heard before. I left because I will not marry that man. Her father shot me a look, as if my very presence was the cause of this rebellion. Isabel, this is not the time or place for family matters. Why not? She shot back. Liam and Lily are my family now. A humorless laugh escaped her father's lips. Don't be ridiculous. These people helped you. That doesn't make them your family. These people? He said it as if we were objects, not human beings. I had had enough. Mr. Beaumont, I said, my voice calm but shaking with anger. We may not have your money, but we know what respect is. And your daughter is a grown woman who can make her own decisions. He turned to Isabel, his face thunderous. Are you going to let this carpenter speak to me this way? His name is Liam, Isabel said, her chin high. And he's right. A grown woman has responsibilities, he thundered. We have thousands of employees depending on our company. A marriage alliance that will secure all of their futures. And your happiness. Happiness is a luxury people like us cannot afford. Just then, Lily spoke, her small voice cutting through the tension. But Jane is happy here. Everyone fell silent. Her father looked at her as if he'd just noticed a piece of furniture had spoken. I've never seen her sad, Lily continued, her lower lip trembling. Not until you came. Charles Beaumont sighed, the fight seeming to drain out of him. He sunk onto the sofa. For the first time, he looked old and tired. Isabel, he said, his voice heavy. Richard has discovered that Sterling Industries is planning a hostile takeover. If you don't marry him, and we don't merge our companies, we will lose everything. The company, the jobs, all of it. The air went out of the room. Isabel looked at me, her face a mask of agony. She was trapped. Torn between the life she had found, and the thousands of lives that depended on her. Her father stood up. The jet is waiting. We have to go now. Can I just have a minute to say goodbye, she pleaded. He looked at his expensive watch. 5 minutes. And then he and his bodyguards walked out, leaving the three of us alone in the shattering silence. Isabel knelt down and pulled Lily into a fierce hug. My beautiful, brave girl, she whispered, her voice breaking. Never, ever forget me. Promise me you'll study hard and you'll become anything you want to be. Will we ever see you again? Lily sobbed into her shoulder. I don't know, my love. I hope so. Then she stood and faced me. The space between us felt like a chasm. Thank you, Liam, she said, her blue eyes shining with unshed tears. For everything. For saving me, for taking care of me, for showing me what a real family feels like. Thank you, I managed to say, my throat tight. For bringing the laughter back. She stepped closer, and for one heart-stopping moment, I thought she would stay. I think I am falling in love with you, Liam, she whispered, the words hanging in the air like a prayer. But sometimes, loving someone means letting them go. And then she did something I would replay in my mind 1,000 times. She leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't a kiss of passion, but of deep, heartbreaking affection. A kiss full of all the words we couldn't say, of a future that had just been stolen from us. Outside, a car horn blared impatiently. I have to go, she whispered against my lips. I know. She took one last look around the small, simple house that had been her sanctuary. Then, she walked out the door, got into the black SUV, and didn't look back. Lily and I watched from the window as the convoy drove away, taking the light and warmth with them, leaving nothing but the rain and an aching, hollow silence. Our lives, which had been so wonderfully, unexpectedly changed, had been changed back again. Only this time it was so much worse. Because now we knew exactly what we were missing. The weeks that followed were a grey, featureless blur. The bank foreclosed on the workshop. I had to sell most of my tools, pieces of my grandfather, pieces of me, just to keep our little house. I found a menial job as a repairman in the next town over, for half the pay and twice the hours. The light in Lily's eyes had gone out. Her grades slipped, and she barely spoke. She just kept asking, is Jane ever coming back? And I never had an answer. Meanwhile, in a glass tower in New York City, Isabel was living in a gilded cage. She was surrounded by wealth and luxury, but she had never felt more impoverished. She moved through board meetings and wedding planning sessions like a phantom, her mind a million miles away in a small wooden house in the mountains. Her fiancé, Richard, was cloyingly attentive, but his touch felt like ice. She saw the way he looked at her father's company not with respect but with hunger. A nagging suspicion took root in her mind, a suspicion that Richard wasn't the company's savior but its predator. Acting on a gut feeling, she used a private account to hire a discreet forensic accountant. 1 week later, he delivered a file that made her blood run cold. It was all there, in black and white. Sterling Industries, the company orchestrating the hostile takeover, was a shell corporation. And its sole owner was Richard Sterling himself. He had engineered the entire crisis. He had manufactured the threat to her family's company to force her into a marriage that would give him absolute control. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it was almost clarifying. The fear and helplessness she felt were burned away by a cold, hard rage. That night, she confronted him over a dinner of champagne and lobster. When were you going to tell me you own Sterling Industries? She asked, her voice dangerously calm. Richard almost choked on his wine. What are you talking about? I have the proof, Richard, she said, sliding the file across the table. I know you orchestrated this entire thing to trap me. He was silent for a long moment. Then, a slow, chilling smile spread across his face. You're even smarter than I thought, he said. Of course it was me. Did you think I'd wait forever for you to make up your mind? I created a situation where you had no choice. You're a monster. I'm a businessman, he sneered. And you will be my wife. Everything is already arranged. I will not marry you. Oh, you will, he said, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Because if you don't, I will activate the real takeover. And this time, there will be nothing you can do to stop it. Your family will lose everything. She stood up, her chair scraping against the marble floor. We'll see about that. That night, fueled by coffee and fury, Isabel worked until dawn. She wasn't just going to save her company. She was going to rebuild it, fortify it, and free it from men like Richard forever. It was a risky, audacious plan. But as she worked, mapping out legal strategies and financial restructuring, her thoughts kept drifting back to a quiet woodworker and his little girl. She had to save her old life, not so she could return to it, but so she could finally be free to choose a new one. For the first time in a very long time, Isabel Beaumont felt a flicker of real, genuine hope. The storm that had brought her to me seemed to have followed her back to the city. Lightning flashed outside her penthouse office, illuminating the New York skyline with the same fierce intensity as the night her jet had gone down. "Are you absolutely certain about this, Isabel?" her father asked, his face etched with worry as he looked over the final documents. "Once we file these, there's no turning back." "I'm certain, father," she said, her voice steady. She had spent a week working tirelessly, creating a brilliant plan to restructure the company, placing it under the control of a new board that she would lead. She had also found a legal loophole to expose Richard's shell companies and block his takeover attempt permanently. "But this means giving up so much," her father insisted. "The social standing, the lifestyle, father," she said gently. "These past few months, I've learned that the most important things in life can't be bought." Just then, Richard strode into the office without knocking. "Isabel, darling, we need to finalize the details for the wedding." He stopped short when he saw the stacks of legal documents on her desk. "What is all this?" "Your professional death warrant," Isabel replied coolly. "In 1 hour, these documents will be filed with the authorities. They will be investigating all of your shell companies and your attempts at extortion." Richard's face paled, then twisted into a mask of fury. "You can't do this. If you ruin me, you ruin yourself. Our companies are too intertwined." "Not anymore," she said. "I've spent the entire week severing every last tie." He tried to change his tack, his voice becoming smooth and persuasive. "Isabel, let's be reasonable. We can forget this madness and get married as planned. I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on earth." "This is about him, isn't it?" he spat, his composure finally breaking. "That dirt poor carpenter. You came back from that miserable little town filled with ridiculous, romantic notions. Do not speak about Liam that way. He's just after your money, you fool. He's playing the long game. Liam had the chance to take a reward that would have set him up for life, and he refused it," she shot back. "He has more integrity in his little finger than you have in your entire body. Now get out of my office. You will regret this," he snarled as he stormed towards the door. "No one says no to Richard Sterling." "Then I guess I'm the first," Isabel said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. When he was gone, her father pulled her into a hug, a real one this time. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. "Are you sure he'll have you back?" "I don't know, Dad," she admitted. "But for the first time in my life, I'm brave enough to find out." The next day, she got into a simple, unassuming car and drove south, towards the mountains. Towards Havenwood. Towards home. As she drove, it began to rain, a soft drizzle that grew into a downpour. It felt like fate. She arrived in Havenwood as night fell. The streets were empty. She pulled up in front of my small house and sat in her car for a long moment, gathering her courage. Finally, She got out and ran through the rain to the door. She knocked. After a few seconds that felt like an eternity, the door opened. And there I was. I looked thinner, more tired. The light had gone from my eyes. Isabel, I breathed, stunned. "Hello, Liam," she said, rain dripping from her hair. "I've come home." "This isn't your home," I said, the old pain raw in my voice. "Your home is in New York." "No," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "This is the only place I've ever truly been happy." Just then, Lily appeared behind me in her pajamas. "Jane," she whispered. "Hello, my love," Isabel said, her face breaking into a tearful smile. Lily ran to her, and Isabel wrapped her in a fierce hug, not caring that they were both getting soaked. "I knew you'd come back," Lily cried. "I told you, Daddy." I just stood there, unable to process what was happening. "You can't be here, Isabel. You have a company to run." "I've already fixed it," she said. "I've found a way to manage the company from here. And I want to do something for this town. For us. I want to start a regional development center, right here in Havenwood. To bring jobs, to improve things, and I want you to be my partner. In business, and in life. If you'll have me." My world, which had been grey and colorless, suddenly flooded with light. I looked into her eyes, and for the first time since she'd left, I felt hope. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion. "You won't regret it?" "The only thing I regret," she said, stepping closer and taking my hands, "is ever leaving." I didn't need to hear any more. I finally smiled, a real smile that reached my eyes. "Well then," I said softly. "Welcome home." And I kissed her, right there in the pouring rain, as my daughter hugged us both, her happy shouts lost in the sound of the storm. We were going to be a family. A real one. And this time, nothing in the world could tear us apart. 2 years have passed since that stormy night. The morning sun now streams through the windows of our house, which is a little bigger now, but still holds the same warmth, the same simple love. Isabel, my wife, is awake beside me, a soft smile on her face as she feels the gentle kicks of our son, who is due to arrive in 2 months. "Good morning, my love," I whisper, kissing her forehead. "Good morning, husband," she replies. The words still feel like a miracle. Our wedding was simple, perfect, held in the town square with the whole of Havenwood as our witness. Even her father, Don Carlos, walked her down the aisle, his eyes filled with a pride that had nothing to do with stock prices or mergers. Lily, now a confident 10-year-old, bursts into the room. She's at the top of her class, and dreams of being a pilot, a dream Isabel has promised to help her achieve. "Mom, Dad, come look," she yells, pointing at the local news on the television. A reporter is standing in front of a beautiful new building. 2 years after its inauguration, the reporter says, the Havenwood Craft Initiative has become a model for the entire region, creating hundreds of jobs and revitalizing the local economy while preserving the town's unique character. Lily jumps up and down. "We're on TV." Isabel and I smile at each other. The initiative, her ambitious project, has been a resounding success. The workshop that was once foreclosed is now a bustling technical school, with me as its head, training young people from all over the mountains. Our life isn't about what we have, it's about what we build together. Life is a funny thing. Sometimes you have to crash and burn to find out where you truly belong. A tragedy can lead you to the most beautiful destination. For Isabel, it was falling from the sky. For me, it was looking up and finding her. We found our purpose not in the lives we were born into, but in the one we chose to build from the ground up, right here, in Havenwood. Our home. Have you ever had a moment, a person, or an event that completely changed the direction of your life? A storm that led to sunshine. Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to read it. And if our story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe for more stories that prove that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead us exactly where we were always meant to be.